A portion of today's video is sponsored by Huano. So I've been using a new 4K monitor for just about everything over the last couple weeks, and honestly, I'm super stoked to be reviewing this one. I did have a monitor practically twice the price of this one, which was the Samsung Neo G8, but frankly, that monitor was a tad overkill for my use case, so it didn't quite make it into my setup. I ended up going for this monitor instead, which is the Gigabyte M32U. This is more than half the price, still 4K HDR, and still gives me high refresh at 144Hz, and yes, of course, there's some differences. The thing is, it's actually super budget friendly when it comes to 4K monitors at $650 USD. And overall, 4K monitors are still super pricey, so this one coming in at $650 is an absolute steal. And this monitor covers me for just about everything in my use case, from productivity, creation, entertainment, and of course my most use case, gaming. And this monitor isn't my main go-to for gaming entirely, since I'm largely a console gamer, which has me gaming at my TV sometimes. But I'm still using my PC to game almost every day, and this monitor is amazing for both consoles and PC gaming. And if you're new here, thanks for stopping by. On this channel, I cover gaming, tech, and a few things in between, so if you enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. If you don't, you're gonna bite your tongue twice in the same spot today. But jumping right into unboxing, Gigabyte actually gives you quite a lot inside the box. Of course, you have the stand and the base alongside the monitor itself. And off the bat, it's actually pretty lightweight. Whether that's a good thing or bad thing, that's totally subjective, but it's light enough, I'm pretty confident it'll work with just about any VESA arm. For cables, you've got an included HDMI cable, which is awesome since a lot of monitors these days simply don't include it. Testing this with my PlayStation 5, it's actually surprising to see it's an HDMI 2.1 cable. As well, you have a DisplayPort cable for that PC connection, a USB-A to USB-B cable for the built-in dock, which I'll definitely get into. There's no power brick or anything for this monitor, just the power lead itself, which has all the regional plugs, which kind of seems a little bit wasteful since I'll only be using one. And setting it up is as simple as ever. The stand simply clips into the back end, and the base itself can be screwed in and you're done. When it comes to the build and design, the monitor is actually exactly how I like my gaming tech, minimal without any over-the-top gamer aesthetics. I appreciate the monitor is all black with minimal branding, and even on the back end there's just a tiny amount of design aspects. Overall, it's actually built pretty well. Everything is plastic, but it seems like decent enough quality plastic, and there's no overly noticeable flex in the plastic. For the stand itself, it actually has great adjustability for swivel, tilt, and height adjustments. The only thing missing here is rotation if that is something you need. Coming from the Neo G8, which had the biggest stand of all time, this one is a lot smaller, coming out to only 8 inches or about 20 centimeters from the back of my desk. The stand does also have a channel for cable management, which again, a lot of monitors seem to be just skipping out on these days. This makes a huge difference for any desk setup. For buttons, you have the KVM switch on the back end, which I will talk about, and just a knob for power and menu navigation. For inputs, to me, this is fully loaded. You have a DisplayPort for PC connections, 2 HDMI 2.1 ports, which is perfect for console gaming, 3 USB-A ports for the hub connectivity, and a USB-C port for both display connection and charging. And just in case you need it, there is a headphone jack. The large array of ports are really what makes this amazing for connecting multiple devices. From all your peripherals and multiple displays, you're definitely covered. Overall, I dig the build aesthetic and stand, but I'm definitely going to be ditching the stand because with any setup I like, I always use monitor arms, which brings me to today's video sponsor, Huano. I've actually been a user of Huano products for quite some time, so it's nice to finally be able to collaborate with them, especially on this project. My last desk setup video showcased this Gigabyte M32U on a Huano single arm mount, and this setup was super nice. And since I've been using this monitor for about 3 weeks now, I figured I'd actually use my identical looking Gigabyte M32Q in the same setup, so I'll be using this dual arm mount from Huano. Like I mentioned, I'm a huge fan of using monitor arms simply due to the aesthetic, additional adjustability, and most important to me, reclaiming desk space. And for me, these monitor arms were super easy to set up, taking only about 10 minutes or so. The two arms in this package are gas spring and are as sturdy as I'll ever need, holding up to 14.3 pounds each monitor. I've always preferred the quality of gas spring arms since they adjust less rigidly when moving and really allow you to get a good position and fine-tune your angles. I installed these onto my desk using the included clamp mount, but you can also use the grommet set if you need to. For me, it comes down to adjustability, aesthetics, and ergonomics. Having proper heights for both sight and posture is super important to me, especially as I get older, and with any setup too, I always try to cable manage as well. For this setup, both monitors are running cables through each of the monitor arms and out of sight. Definitely a must-have for any desk setup. Be sure to check out this Huano dual monitor mount in the video description, and thanks to Huano for sponsoring this portion of today's video. When it comes to gaming though, this is where the monitor really shines, especially for a monitor that's only $650. I say only $650 since most high refresh 4K monitors are at least 30 to 50% more expensive, or sometimes even double. In terms of specs, this is a 4K 144Hz monitor, which has a 1 millisecond response time. When it comes to gaming, it truly is a marvel, and personally I feel like it's the absolute best bang for buck in terms of 4K gaming on a budget. In my previous minimal desk setup video, I went deep into console gaming on this monitor, and it still really holds true today. Playing games like God of War Ragnarok look absolutely incredible. Primarily though, I'm going to be playing more competitive titles like Call of Duty or Overwatch on a monitor, and the 1 millisecond response time is perfect for this. And playing fast-paced games like this has absolutely no ghosting or tearing, likely since it has AMD FreeSync Pro, which allows variable refresh rate while gaming. My PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X will only take me up to 120Hz though, so when it comes to PC gaming, this is where I can actually test out the 144Hz, which performs perfectly. I enjoy Overwatch on console, but when I'm actually playing competitively or with my wife, we play Overwatch on PC, which like Call of Duty is super fast paced. Overall, its HDR quality and image won't be better than the more expensive monitors, but really you're not really comparing them side by side, and gaming on here is still an absolute pleasure. In terms of the HDR 400 certification, it's actually not that bad. There's definitely a noticeable difference when it's enabled versus disabled. However, I wouldn't go out of your way to purchase this monitor specifically for the HDR performance. Either way, it's still super nice to have. I personally prefer the HDR look, however overall you'd want a brighter display for a better HDR experience. Either way, I'm happy it's available. Outside of gaming, this monitor is well rounded for entertainment as well, which the HDR capabilities still, colors do pop and the blacks aren't that bad. Again, this isn't going to be the best HDR ever like I mentioned, but it's still a nice touch. Even if you're just focusing on HDR content, you're well covered either way. The Gigabyte M32U does have 2 speakers included, although they're only 3-watt speakers. And frankly, they're not the greatest. I'd say they're absolutely fine for gaming where you don't need to really hear enemy footsteps or anything, and for anything else, they're perfectly fine. Here's a quick sound test. Overall, I'm happy with the speakers are included, just know they're not the greatest but will still do the job. I mostly just use my headset plugged in directly to my controller when gaming or directly into the monitor if doing anything else. And a feature I absolutely adore is the built-in KVM. This is 1000% easily one of the best features you can have on any monitor, especially if you have a multi-system setup. For me, I have both my gaming PC and MacBook set up through the KVM switch in this case. If you're unfamiliar with the KVM, it stands for keyboard, video, and mouse. Pretty much with a tap of the KVM switch, everything hooked up through the built-in hub will swap between those 2 machines. For me, I'm using a 2.4 GHz dongle for both my mouse and keyboard, as well as a webcam, which is perfect when swapping between both gaming and productivity setups seamlessly. And when it comes down to productivity, this monitor is actually almost perfect. For me, it's the size. I've mentioned it in previous videos, but 32 inches is practically the perfect size for gaming and productivity. And it definitely pairs super well with my MacBook since I can connect with just one cable. The USB-C port does provide up to 15 watts power delivery as well as a video connection. Talking about the menus and on-screen displays, they're rather basic. You can change your picture settings depending on the content you're viewing from a bunch of presets or simply set your own. You'll definitely want to enable the AMD FreeSync, which will give you VRR capabilities while gaming on consoles though. For me, I find most use out of playing around with the black levels, which helps a lot if playing FPS games. The only 2 things I find are missing is being able to actively see your variable refresh rate, as well as built-in crosshairs. Overall, I'm seriously impressed with this monitor, especially since it's only $650. I know that's still a chunk of change, but relative to other 4K monitors, it's such a great deal. This monitor will definitely remain one of my personal daily drivers for the next while, and if you've been on the fence about trying a 4K monitor, this is probably the best one to try from the get-go, especially if you're more budget conscious. Plus, not everyone has the space or budget for a 4K TV, but still want that 4K experience. This monitor will definitely give you that. This is easily going to remain a staple in my setup, and I'm looking forward to gaming more on this monitor. If you stuck it out to the end of the video, I really appreciate it as always. I'll leave this monitor and everything else in my setup linked down below in the video description. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like or a sub. Thanks again for watching. Till next time.